Wait a moment, because today we are going to talk about one of the smartest and most celebrated comedy shows in the whole history of television, and that show is Frasier. This incredible series first appeared on screens back in 1993 and went on to collect a grand total of 37 Emmy Awards, which is something truly worth celebrating. It even managed to do better than the original show it came from, and that is honestly no small achievement at all. More than 35 years have now passed since Dr. Frasier Crane first walked into that radio studio in Seattle, so let us find out what happened to everybody who climbed all the way to the top, who went through heartbreaking tragedies, and who simply and quietly disappeared from the spotlight. These are the questions we are going to go through today, one person at a time. But before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. Now, let us begin with the show itself, because that is where everything starts. The legend, the icon. Number 1. Kelsey Grammer, Dr. Frasier Crane. When the Frasier series first came to television in September 1993, Kelsey Grammer was 38 years old at the time. Though, of course, he had already been playing this very same character years before that on Cheers, which makes the whole story even more interesting when you really sit and think about it. And when you actually consider it properly, that is quite a remarkable thing. Frasier Crane is the exact same character from the very beginning to the very end, and yet the spin-off show carries a completely new and fresh feeling to it. Frasier Crane is an arrogant, highly intelligent, and emotionally complicated psychiatrist who returns to the city of Seattle after going through a divorce. He gets himself a job as a therapist who gives advice over the radio, and the story takes off from there. His father, Martin, who is a retired police officer, comes to live with him, and from that point forward, there is conflict and comedy happening almost every single day. I always say that Frasier is a man with a very big ego, and the funny part is that things never really work out the way he imagines they will. The gap between who Frasier thinks he is and who he truly is in reality. That is where all the laughter comes from. Kelsey's performance throughout the show is nothing short of absolutely extraordinary. His ability to move between big comedy moments and genuine emotional pain within the very same scene is something that very few actors in the world are capable of doing. And I am truly not exaggerating when I say that. His awards alone tell you everything you need to know about just how talented this man really is. Kelsey won 4 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, all for this one single role, which is simply incredible. He also walked away with Golden Globes, SAG Awards, and practically every other major honor that exists in the entertainment world. To this very day, he holds the record for being the actor who has won the most Emmy Awards for playing a single role. But not everything in Kelsey's life was as bright and successful as his career on screen. He carries a very painful and difficult past that most people would struggle to survive. When Kelsey was just 13 years old, his father was shot and killed, which is an unimaginable thing for any child to go through. Then in 1975, his beloved younger sister Karen was taken and tragically murdered, adding even more grief to an already broken heart. And as if all of that were not painful enough, in 1980, 2 of his half-siblings lost their lives in a scuba diving accident. All of these terrible things happened before he had even reached the age of 30. The fact that this man showed up to work every single day and made millions of people laugh is something that is almost impossible to fully understand. I truly believe he is a very special and deeply strong human being. He also very openly struggled with substance addiction all through the 1980s and 1990s, went through several marriages, and dealt with more public drama than most people could ever handle. And yet through all of it, he kept working and kept showing up without giving up. After Frasier came to an end in 2004, Kelsey took on the lead role in a political drama called Boss, and he won a Golden Globe for that performance as well. He played the Beast in several X-Men films and appeared in 30 Rock, Boss, and a number of other projects that made it very clear he had no desire to simply live off old memories. Then, in 2023, something truly wonderful happened, and Frasier came back to television. This time, Frasier is living in Boston and working on rebuilding his relationship with his son Frederick. Today, at 71 years old, Kelsey Grammer remains one of the most familiar and respected voices on television anywhere in the world. His estimated net worth sits at around $80 million, which is a reflection of a long and incredibly successful career. Kelsey, my friend, you are a true legend, and that is something that will never change no matter how much time passes. You will always be remembered Number 2. John Mahoney, Martin Crane. John Mahoney was 53 years old when he joined the cast of Frasier, taking on the role of Martin Crane, the retired Seattle police detective who is the father of both Frasier and Niles. In my personal opinion, if Frasier is the ego of the show, then Martin is without any doubt the heart and soul of it. Martin was everything his sons were not: grounded, straight-talking, and perfectly happy sitting back with a cold beer and watching a football game. A cold beer and a football game, now that is the image of a true, classic, everyday American man, and I would know one anywhere. After being shot while on duty as a police officer, Martin moved in with Frasier and brought along his old, worn-out armchair that he absolutely loved. Frasier, of course, hated that chair with every single part of his being, and that armchair became one of the greatest ongoing jokes in the entire history of television comedy. It never got old, no matter how many times they came back to it. Martin was also genuinely and naturally funny in a way that felt completely real. He had a way of making the audience laugh in nearly every episode without even trying too hard. The arguments and conflicts between father and son created some of the most hilarious moments the show ever produced. Every single smile we had watching those scenes is something we truly owe to John Mahoney, the wonderfully talented actor who brought Martin Crane to life so beautifully. The fact that he came to acting quite late in life makes his personal story even more extraordinary and inspiring. He spent his years working as a medical journal editor well into his mid-30s before he finally stepped onto the stage for the first time. He had already won a Tony Award on Broadway before he ever appeared on a television screen. After Frasier ended in 2004, John went back to doing theater, which was always his first and greatest love, and he continued appearing in various film and television projects along the way. He was never someone who needed or wanted to be the center of attention, and that quiet dignity was a huge part of what made him so special. He was, in every sense of the word, a true actor. Then came the heartbreaking news that left so many fans deeply saddened. John Mahoney passed away on February 4, 2018, at the age of 77, after a short illness, and he died in Chicago surrounded by the people who loved him most. Friends, let us not spend too long in sadness, because every person who has ever lived will one day say goodbye to this world. What matters most is that we focus on living our lives in a beautiful and meaningful way, just as John did. Now let us turn our attention to Martin's other son, because he deserves a good long look as well. Number 3. David Hyde Pierce, Dr. Niles Crane. When Frasier first began, David Hyde Pierce was 34 years old, and he was playing Frasier's younger brother, a fellow psychiatrist named Niles Crane. Niles was somehow even more snobbish and proper than Frasier himself, which is really quite something when you stop to think about how snobbish Frasier already was. But wait, before we go any further, here's a little fun fact that many people do not know. David was not originally planned to be part of Frasier at all. The character of Niles simply did not exist in the early idea for the show. But when the producers brought David in to meet with them, they were so completely blown away by him that they actually created the character of Niles specifically for him. And from the very first episode, it became obvious to everyone that this had been one of the greatest decisions ever made in television history. Niles was a brilliantly crafted comedy character, cultured, anxious, physically clumsy, and completely and hopelessly in love with the show's beloved character, Daphne. And yet, no matter how strong his feelings were, he could never bring himself to say any of it out loud. In fact, every single time he was near her, he would practically forget how to function like a normal human being. I can picture it perfectly clear in my mind even right now. This story of unreturned love ran all the way through 7 full seasons of the show, and the way David played it, with such care, such warmth, and such honest sincerity, is something that comedy writers and acting students still go back and study to this very day. He won 4 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series for this role. 4 awards just like Kelsey, and the fact that the 2 of them were winning in the same years was honestly a little unfair to everyone else who was competing against them. But there is really nothing anyone can do about talent when it is that obvious. Where there is real skill, there will always be awards waiting to follow. After Frasier ended, David turned his full attention to where his heart had always truly belonged, and that was the theater. He starred in the Broadway musical Curtains, took home a Tony Award in 2007, and built a reputation as one of the most highly regarded stage actors in all of New York. There is also a genuinely touching and beautiful chapter in David's personal life that is worth talking about. He had been in a committed relationship with director and producer Brian Hargrove since all the way back in 1983, which was a full 10 years before Frasier even started airing on television. In 2008, when same-sex marriage became legal in the state of California, David and Brian got married and made it official. David also came out publicly around that same period of time, and the response from fans all around the world was overwhelmingly warm and full of support. He stayed away from television for a long stretch of years after that, focusing mostly on stage work. When the Frasier revival was eventually announced, fans everywhere immediately started asking the same question, which was whether Niles would be coming back. David kept very quiet on the subject, and so far his return has not been included in the new story, which has genuinely disappointed a great many loyal fans. Today, at 67 years old, David Hyde Pierce remains one of the most deeply loved and respected character actors of his entire generation. Friends, coming up next is the true queen of Frasier, and she absolutely deserves her moment. But before we continue, I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a like, because it truly means a lot. Number 4, Jane Leeves, Daphne Moon Crane. Here she is, the woman that Niles Crane spent 7 long years silently longing for. Jane Leeves was 31 years old when Frasier began, and she was playing Daphne Moon, a warm and lovable physiotherapist and home care worker originally from Manchester who comes to live with and look after Martin Crane. Daphne was caring, a little unusual, slightly superstitious, and she believed she had a small amount of psychic ability that she would bring up from time to time. Martin absolutely adored her. Niles worshipped her from a distance. And the audience fell completely in love with her as well. What is particularly interesting about Jane Leeves is that despite being British by birth, she essentially built her entire American television career, starting from nothing, and worked her way up completely on her own. Before Frasier came along, she had appeared in a recurring role on Seinfeld, playing a British girl that George dated for a brief time. But it was Frasier that truly turned her into a star. Daphne's journey throughout the series is one of the most satisfying and well-written character arcs the show has to offer. The way she remained completely unaware of how deeply Niles felt about her is something that stuck with audiences for years and years. But Jane gave absolutely everything she had to that role, and she brought such genuine and natural charm to Daphne that you completely believed every moment of it. You believed without question that Niles would willingly wait 7 whole years just for a chance to be with her. She received Emmy nominations and Golden Globe nominations for her work on the show, which was entirely well-deserved. However, and this is something that Frasier fans have expressed frustration about for a very long time, she never quite got the full level of recognition that her talent truly earned. After Frasier ended, Jane went on to star alongside Betty White, Valerie Bertinelli, and Wendy Malick in the sitcom Hot in Cleveland, which ran successfully for 6 whole seasons. It was a genuine hit that introduced her to an entirely new group of fans who had never seen her before. She also came back to play Daphne as a guest star in the Frasier revival, which made fans extremely happy when it happened. Today, at 64 years old, Jane Leeves is still working, still as charming as ever, and still an absolute delight to watch in anything she appears in. She is one of those truly rare performers who brings a little extra warmth and light to everything she is part of. Long may that continue. Number 5, Peri Gilpin, Roz Doyle. Now let us talk about the woman who kept Frasier's oversized ego in check on a daily basis, the clever, sharp, and wonderfully entertaining Roz Doyle. Peri Gilpin was 30 years old when she started playing Roz, who works as Frasier's radio producer at KACL. Roz was self-assured, smart, never once apologized for who she was, and had a personal life that had become legendary in its own right among viewers of the show. She was the ideal balance to Frasier's constant overthinking and anxiety, and the show would not have been the same without her. What is most interesting about Roz as a character is the way she grew and developed over the course of all 11 seasons of the show. She started out as a fairly straightforward contrast to Frasier, and gradually became one of the most fully realized and complete characters in the entire series. She earned 2 Emmy nominations for the role, and while she may not have taken home the award, those nominations were absolutely and completely deserved. Now, Peri's career after Frasier has been a little quieter than some of her co-stars, and from everything we can tell, that appears to be very much a personal and deliberate decision on her part. she was never someone who ran after fame or tried to stay in the spotlight at all costs. Over the years, she appeared in a number of television movies and guest roles, did some voice work here and there, and generally chose to stay out of the public eye for the most part. In 2004, she adopted twin daughters named Stella and Iva, and by most accounts, she made the choice to put her family first above everything else in life. And honestly, what a truly wonderful and admirable choice that is. Peri did not appear in the Frasier revival when it came back, and that was a real disappointment for a large number of fans who had been hoping to see her. Roz Doyle had played such a significant and important part in making the show as successful as it was, and her absence is something that is genuinely felt. Today, at 64 years old, Peri Gilpin seems content-happy and at peace with the life she has built for herself. She takes part in Frasier retrospectives and fan events from time to time, and every single time she does, it is clear that she looks back on the show with real and genuine warmth in her heart. Now let us move on to someone who honestly deserves far more recognition than she has ever been given. Number 6. Bebe Neuwirth, Lilith Sternin. Technically, Bebe first brought the character of Lilith to life on Cheers, before carrying her over to Frasier as a guest appearance. She was 34 years old when the very first episode of Frasier aired on television. And Lilith, who is Frasier's cold, sharp-tongued ex-wife and the mother of his son Frederick, is without question one of the greatest comedy creations in the entire history of American television. Lilith was frightening in the most entertaining way possible. She spoke in a slow, controlled, emotionless voice, had absolutely no patience for warmth or feelings, and delivered her cutting remarks with a kind of precision that you only see in the very best performers. And yet, and this is what made Bebe's performance so completely extraordinary, you could always sense the real human being hiding just beneath that cold surface. The rare moments when Lilith actually allowed herself to feel something were incredibly powerful, precisely because they happened so seldom. Bebe won 2 Emmy Awards for her portrayal of Lilith, one for her work on Cheers and one for her work on Frasier. She also built an outstanding career on Broadway, winning Tony Awards for both Chicago and Curtains, which firmly established her as one of the most gifted women in the entire history of American entertainment. After Frasier ended, Bebe kept herself very busy with Broadway productions, film appearances, and television roles. She had a recurring part on The Good Wife, showed up on Madam Secretary, and continued doing extensive and celebrated theater work throughout all of it. She came back to appear in the Frasier revival as well, bringing Lilith back in the most entertainingly disruptive and memorable way imaginable, much to Frasier's visible discomfort, and to the absolute delight of fans everywhere. Today, at 61 years old, Bebe Neuwirth remains a total and undeniable powerhouse in the world of entertainment. She is one of those truly special artists who shines just as brilliantly on a theater stage as she does in front of a camera, and her place in the history of American entertainment is completely and permanently secured. Number 7. Dan Butler, Bulldog Briscoe. Let us take a proper moment to appreciate a character who made every single episode he appeared in just a little bit louder and a whole lot funnier. That character is Bulldog Briscoe. When Frasier first began, Dan Butler was 36 years old, and he was playing Bob Bulldog Briscoe, the loud, aggressive, and completely self-centered sports radio host at KACL, who worked in the studio right next to Frasier's. Bulldog was the exact opposite of Frasier in every way that you can possibly imagine. He was loud where Frasier was refined, rough where Frasier was polished, and completely unapologetic about everything he said and did. And yet somehow, underneath all of that noise and bluster, there was a surprisingly soft and sweet side to him that would peek through at unexpected moments. Dan brought such committed and full energy to the role that Bulldog ended up becoming one of the most beloved recurring characters the show ever had. The back and forth between him and Roz, his easy friendship with the rest of the team, and his completely over-the-top devotion to sports all worked so well, because Dan played every single moment with complete and total believability. After Frasier came to an end, Dan continued to work steadily in both theater and television in the years that followed. Back in the mid-1990s, he came out publicly as gay, making him one of the first actors working on a major network series to openly identify that way. He has talked honestly and openly about what that experience was like, and about how much the entertainment industry has shifted and changed over the decades since then. Today, at 69 years old, Dan Butler continues to do what he loves most, which is working in theater, where his greatest passion has always lived. He may not be the most widely recognized name from the Frasier cast when you ask people on the street, but among fans of the show, Bulldog Briscoe is a truly iconic and unforgettable character. Dan deserves every bit of credit for making him that way. Friends, I am so genuinely grateful that you have stayed with me and watched this video all the way through to this moment. Please take very good care of yourselves, and I will see you again in the next video. Presented by Screen Revisited.